Good afternoon, everyone, all participants of Global Toronto. Welcome. My name is Danielle Lenardi. I'm a musician and the Executive and Artistic Director of 918 Bathurst, a lovely little cultural space in downtown Toronto, and that's where I am, talking to you from Toronto. And it is a real honor and privilege to be here today to help showcase and introduce to you some amazing artists like the one you're about to see today, KATER. Hello, KAIA.
Hi, Daniela. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay, yeah.
And where are you talking to us from today?
I'm speaking to you from Buffalo, New York, where I'm holed up for the summer.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, I know you've chosen a video for us. So before we roll into that, can you give us a brief background on it, why you chose it, and what we're about to see?
So it's a song called New Colossus, and it's from my most recent album, Grenades. And I chose New Colossus because it's a song about empowerment and going through life as a woman in the patriarchy and some of the microaggressions of the music industry and life in general. I have had a tendency to kind of soften myself and reduce myself, and women are always being told to be thinner, to be smaller. And so I wrote this song, New Colossus, because it was based off a poem about the Statue of Liberty. And most statues that I've seen are of men or horses or men on horses. And so I've always really admired the Statue of Liberty for maybe the ideals that we can strive for, not achieving them right now. And just how she's such a tall, statuesque woman who's standing very powerfully. And and so New Colossus is just about trying to emulate that.
Wow, fantastic. All right, well, let's roll the video and see New Colossus.
New Colossus teaches us the sacred man, stalks the limits of my living room, cuts me clean in half. When time, a minute hand spins you around the place, spins the big machine as it descends again. Every tortured day, praying mantis scream. Every hiss from you, a glimpse into the creep. My limbs would split the wind to fractions of its shape, split the big machine and leave you there to wait. Speculator in the new age town, spoils the milk and boils the poppy down. Speculator, do you crave a sign when New Colossus comes for you? When New Colossus comes for you. Out the window, trees bent down to kiss my thigh. I multiply and now the earth divides. You spurn me like a dog, but now I double back, drag the big machines and steady for attack. When I strike you, I'll hit goddamn everyone, like a queen with every hound and it to me. Backwards for me. I'll make a way from no way. Speculator in the new age town, spoils the milk and boils the crocodile. Speculator, do you long to see when new colossus comes free? When new colossus comes free. 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 When new colossus comes for me.
So that was amazing. It's such a beautiful song and such dreamy arrangements and the songwriting, just such a depth to your songwriting. Before I start in my questions, I want to know your story. So who are you? What are you? Where have you come from? How did you come to do what you do?
Sure. So I was born in Montreal, Quebec. My father is Grenadian from the Caribbean, and my mother is from Canada. And I grew up bilingual, speaking English and French, and playing all sorts of instruments, piano, cello. And then I discovered banjo actually through multiple sources, but mainly through folk festivals, because my mom ran a few folk festivals, the Ottawa Folk Festival and then the Winnipeg Folk Festival. And so, I was introduced to a lot of different styles of music, like quite early that way. Clawhammer banjo, which is the style of banjo that I play, the style of music that I play, is actually the banjo is an African instrument. It originated in East Africa and then moved to West Africa, and then through the diaspora proliferated through the Caribbean and the States and Canada. This is all to say that the banjo was just a really important instrument to me when I started playing. There was this connection, and I started writing songs on the banjo. And I also went to college in the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia just to study the style a little bit more. And while I was there, I put out a few records that were mostly rooted in traditional music. But my love and development in songwriting grew more and more, and I started to explore different musical palettes involving like trumpets in my music, electric guitar, drums. I've sort of taken that basis of traditional music and influenced it with my other interests. And so I would describe my musical style as like roots folk, but with so much more thrown in there.
Well, you received a Juno nomination in 2019 for Contemporary Roots album.
I did, yes.
Yeah, as well as Polaris Music Prize Long List and Canadian Folk Music Award and Stingray Rising Star Award. So some pretty awesome awards. So let's talk about your songwriting. What inspires the storytelling? What is your motivation? What gets your creative juices going?
Mm-hmm. Well, I am biracial, and I've found that, I grew up with two very different stories. My Caribbean side of my family, the Black side of my family, and also the white side of my family. And both were very influential my music and my development as a person. And, coming from kind of like two very different backgrounds, I've always been really fascinated by people's stories and what lies beneath the surface. And so with Grenades, which is my most recent record, I actually went back to the Caribbean, to Grenada, where my father's from and where my family lives. And I rented a little apartment in the capital, and I wrote a lot of my record there. And that was interspersed with like going to the beach and hanging out with my cousins, and really like discovering the music of Grenada and, grappling with, what does it mean to be a Canadian, whose, immediate roots are in the Caribbean. And so I use storytelling as a way to understand my own place in the world, but also like to celebrate the joy and the sorrow that usually, kind of like crash together in this life. And so I've just been very much inspired. My dad came to Canada as a refugee when he was 15, very young. He came alone. And so my record, Grenades, is interspersed with audio from an interview that I took with him. And so, yeah, it's a really important like narrative line. And that's really the way that I approach songwriting, is in these like very broad strokes. And, it has not changed with the COVID-19 pandemic. I was in Brooklyn when it broke out. I was living in Brooklyn, and and I think it's just like really important to understand the environment that you're in, and that includes the Black Lives Matter protests that reemerged as a result of the slayings of Black people at the hands of law enforcement. And so, yeah, I think it's all like this avalanche that I'm sort of sorting through, being like, okay, how can I bring this to the forefront in my music?
Yeah. And so how do you find, in these times, here we are having to do a virtual showcase, a virtual spotlight, as opposed to you doing it live. And we spent these past few months locked down, and for some people it's been inspiring and they've been incredibly creative and productive. And for some it's been incredibly challenging, where they've just shut down and just not ready to let anything out. How have you found this time for your music, for your songwriting, and just personally too?
I understand both sides of kind of feeling like, oh God, I need to have an outlet for the anxiety, the pain, this kind of global trauma that we're all going through. At first I was I very much felt like, okay, music is not important right now. Like doctors and nurses are important. Grocery workers are important. Transit workers are important. And so I felt a little bit like I'd lost my place. What can I do to help? Right. I actually got myself together after a few weeks, and I was able to put on a live stream show. And it was really interesting. Like, I was so nervous, but it was a way to connect in some small way with somebody on the other side of the computer, on the other side of the world, maybe. And that kind of kept me going. And so I've relied on my community a lot, on the artist community, having deadlines with friends where we have to write a song a week or a song a day, or whatever it is, and sort of relying on those external motivations. And the external motivation is also going out to march in Brooklyn during the Black Lives Matter protests. It's just like trying to be of some purpose in all of this, and that has come back to me tenfold, of just feeling reinvigorated and re-inspired by others. And then also, films, books. I I've been reading Frankenstein. So I've been reading, I've kind of been like escaping maybe back into history. I read The Scarlet Letter. And I think it's just like, it's another aspect that's coming out in my songs as well.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what comes through when we get through to the other side of this. This was supposed to be a live showcase, and for some who haven't seen you live, can you give us a little description of what a live experience with KATER would be?
Yeah, I would love to say that it's a very reflective experience. It's I in the past have toured in multiple different ways. I'm super comfortable doing a solo live show. I'm also, really comfortable bringing a band. So I've played with, upright bass, electric guitar, lap steel, and I played with a drummer, as folks have seen in the new Colossus video. And so, the biggest thing for me really is just about bringing the story of whatever I'm writing about to the forefront. Mm-hmm. And so with Grenades, those interview snippets that I had with my father, I would sort of play them intermittently throughout the show, so that the audience could sort of get a linear experience of, someone close to me who is a refugee. Right. And kind of like see the generational, trickle down waterfall that sparks. And so with my next project, I don't know what live performance is going to look like, but I would love to keep exploring that idea of bringing, some auditory aspects, maybe some spoken word, maybe some pieces of interviews, pieces of newsreels, radios, which I did as well in Grenades. And then, I don't know, maybe add a visual element, or, just kind of work with whatever environment I'm presented with, to try and, spark thought and dialogue, especially around race, especially around culture, relationship with self, relationship with the outside world. It's ever evolving, and I'm very much ready to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Whenever
we get to it.
And wherever this goes.
Yeah. I read in your bio that you did an 18-month tour.
Yeah.
What was that?
So after I released 9-Pin, I released it the same month that I graduated from university. Mm-hmm. And it took off a little bit faster and quicker than I thought it would, which was absolutely a joyful experience for me. But I remember just like asking myself, how do I tour? Like, they don't give you a class on touring at school. And so, it was really a coming of age experience for me at like 23, getting out on the road and bringing my songs to people. Yeah. But of course, I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful to have had that experience. And at the same time, to bring up like maybe a small positive of coronavirus is I'm also learning about balance, having to learn about balance, and having to learn about, okay, what does it look like to take care of myself when I'm off the road? What does that mean? What does it mean to be, to separate who I am as an individual and who I am as an artist, and kind of like nurture both of those things. I think that's been like a lesson for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we've all been running a pretty fast pace without realizing it.
Exactly.
And, this has been a definite pause and a reset for all of us in many, 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 many ways. Yeah. So what is next for you?
I think a lot more writing is next for me. You can say I'm in my writing room. There's an upright bass there, a bicycle when I need to get outside. I think I'm part of a writers group that's a kind of a critique based environment. So you bring your stuff and then people say, I love this, or have you thought about changing this? And so, I'm looking forward to drilling down, writing a lot of songs. And I'm also kind of looking forward to how I'm going to, as an artist, engage with the COVID-19 pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement, which I've been, very, very much has been a vocal and clear part of my art since 2015. I wrote a song about Black Lives Matter called Rising Down. So I'm looking to revive those things that I think I was singing about, but maybe people weren't quite grasping it at the time. I feel like since those 5 years, I've seen a little bit of a jump in understanding and cognition. And so, I have a collaborator who's a dancer, a tap dancer, percussive dancer. We wrote this piece about Black Lives Matter together. And so hopefully kind of like bringing in those essences, like revisiting past work in a new way. And also, interviewing people maybe about their experience in the pandemic, or interviewing them about whatever they want to talk about. Maybe they can phone into like a voicemail line and just like rant, anonymously tell their story or something like that. I would love to create some sort of project that reinforces our interconnectedness and our interrelatedness, because that's something that, we had all these illusions of separateness before this pandemic hit, and all of a sudden we realized like, oh man, we actually all need each other so much more than we thought we did.
Absolutely. We have 2 minutes left. So in this time, if people want to find out more about you and see more and hear more of what you do, tell us where we can find you.
You can find me at my website, www.KAIAKATER.com. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm really open to collaboration, to ideas. I thought it would be prudent to mention that I do have a very decent studio setup here. So, I've been doing some recordings and partnerships with some other bands and artists, and I have a few things coming out, which I'm really looking forward to sharing, that are just co-writes and collaborations. And so, that's sort of what I'm doing, and absolutely open to more of that. It doesn't have to be live show or bust for me.
Right.
I'm occasionally doing merch sales for Black-led organizations, so look out for that as well. And just chugging along on my little train.
That's right. We're in a time of improvising, adapting, and overcoming. So we just got to chug along. Yeah, well, if I can just wrap up this lovely chat that we've had in discovery of KAIA KATER. There was a quote from The Guardian that says, describes you as where bluegrass meets Nina Simone. So thank you, KAIA. Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to talk to you. And everyone, please do check out more of KAIA's music.
Thank you, Daniela. It's really great talking to you. Thank you to Global TO as well for hosting this. We're really grateful.
Yeah. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.